遊びテック
Hey there, this is Quang DX from Asobi Tech. Today I'm joined with my good friend
Dr. Paul Harrison. I'm an Egyptologist. I run a podcast called The Profane Egyptologist, and you can find that on iTunes and Podbean and Spotify and that kind of stuff. And I talk about groovy Egypt-type shaped things.
I asked Dr. Paul Harrison along today because I acquired a Pioneer Laseractive player which has the capability to play Megadrive and PC Engine games. One of the cool features is the games it plays, not only the cartridge games and CD games, but it also plays Laserdisc games. And one of the Laserdiscs you can get for the Megadrive pack is The Great Pyramid. So yeah, we got The Great Pyramid Laserdisc, and we're gonna let Paul have a watch, have a play of it actually, because it's technically a game. I don't know how much gamey it is, but it plays on the Megadrive pack.
I suspect the game aspect is minimal.
Okay, well, if you want to pick up the Laserdisc and we'll take a look, shall we?
Alright, let's have a look, see. You know what, just from the outset actually, I have to say, nice design. Get an eyeful of this branding here. This is beautiful. This is a nice looking thing. It's got hieroglyphs all over the back.
I'm quite
really
enjoying this flowchart on the back.
This looks like, to me, the DVD menu is the game, ladies and gents.
Wait, I paid a ton of money to play a DVD menu game.
I believe you have, sir.
Wow, this is going to be a great video.
A pharaoh's cash, verily. This has got Japanese writing all over it.
Yeah,
this is an original.
Japanese originals, yeah.
Is it in Japanese?
So the majority of the MegaLD games, even though they have all these FMV and stuff,
yeah,
it's all in English.
Well, that is curious. It makes me wonder who this is aimed at.
Yeah. This machine was also released in America.
Okay.
So some of these games are also available in America. So I wonder how much influence the West and the East had on these games.
Do you think this was a big seller?
I'm sure someone out there can look it up and see how many of the Great Pyramid actually sold.
This is
many.
This is really nice condition there. Really nice condition.
I try.
You succeed. All right.
All right. Here we
Unpacking the Great Pyramid. I feel like I'm discovering some archaeological treasure right now, because that. That's beautiful.
There's something about Laserdiscs. They're just
so rainbowy.
It's so, I don't know.
Rainbowy, kids. All right, cool. Should we do this?
Yeah, let's whack it in. This is giant drawer.
Side one. I once met a guy who thought this was in the 90s, giving away my age now, who thought that the CD player played the picture side.
Yeah. Okay.
And he would put CDs in upside down, and we were all just like, seriously?
Okay, cool. All right, let's do this. All right, licensed by Pioneer and Sega. So, two big players.
Oh yeah.
Already feels very 90s.
That's one way of putting it, yeah. Oh, the old Pioneer logo.
Yeah.
Man, this is bringing back memories.
I don't feel like I have any like Pioneer equipment. I think my dad used to have an AV amp or something. But other than that...
There's a sun, there's a desert. There's a pyramid. And the universe.
1993.
93.
It's a good year. Great
All
start.
right.
Great stuff. Let's choose...
Name.
Make sure we're in English. It's good.
Okay, so that's
Pre-rendered
Falcon.
Pre-rendered CGI.
A little bit of CGI there.
Egypt, the cradle of civilization.
Kind of, mostly.
That's what I was told.
The lands along the Nile are dotted with countless monuments to the achievements of early Egyptian civilization.
Alright.
It's a
we're
treasure
seeing
chest of ancient mysteries,
a bit of Thebes,
and every new discovery raises as many
hieroglyphs.
questions as it answers.
Abu Simbel, Temple
Why
of
did the
Ramesses.
ancient Egyptians build enormous pyramids? Why did they mummify their dead? What were their customs and beliefs? And what kinds of lives did they lead? Ancient
question.
Egypt's history
They're
of
great
over
questions.
3.5 millennia can be divided into 3 periods. The era of the pyramids, the era of Tutankhamun, and the era of Cleopatra.
Okay, this is very shaky so far. That is not
start.
how
There's
we
a
break
difference of
down
approximately 1,000
periods
years
in
between
ancient
those two
Egypt
rulers,
at all.
and their capital cities were several hundred kilometers apart, which resulted in 2 quite different civilizations. What were the characteristics of each period?
Sphinx. It's mysterious, the Sphinx.
Yeah.
You know? Look at it. Well mysterious.
Yeah.
Old Kingdom. Okay, that's how we break down.
All right.
Pre-dynastic. Old Kingdom, which is when the big pyramids were built.
Ancient Egypt went through
Fourth and fifth
repeated
dynasty.
cycles of
Fourth
growth,
dynasty, right,
prosperity, and decline.
The pyramid
The
that looks
first
biggest,
peak of Egyptian civilization was when many of the pyramids
it's just at a
were built,
higher elevation. You can
including
tell
the
from the little
enormous
capstone on
ones
top
at
of it.
Giza.
Limescale still there. That's the second one.
The oldest pyramid in
It's a
Egypt
step
is
pyramid.
this step pyramid, built in
Senefru.
2650 BC in a region called Saqqara, approximately 20 kilometers southwest of Cairo. It was the first in a long series of pyramids erected in ancient Egypt. This, the heyday of the pyramids, is called the Old Kingdom period.
Okay.
I'm learning stuff.
Yeah.
Huge pyramids were erected at Giza around 2550 BC, some 100 years after the Saqqara Step Pyramid. Of the more than 80 pyramids discovered up to
Digging the
now,
music.
only the vast pyramid built as the tomb of King Khufu, or Cheops, is called the Great Pyramid.
I'm
It's
wondering
a
when the
truly
game
enormous
starts.
structure with an
I'm
internal
feeling
complexity
like
and architectural sophistication
the
that
controller
makes
is
it
a
topic
little
of
bit
research even
redundant.
today.
This
It's an
feels
invaluable window on ancient
more like
Egyptian
I just switched on the
civilization.
Discovery Channel. Which is not necessarily a bad thing,
True.
but I mean, how much do these go for?
The capital of the Old Kingdom was here
This
in
is
Memphis,
about
near
60
Saqqara,
quid.
where the Step Pyramid is
60
located.
quid.
Yeah.
In
So
the
that's a few
area
months of
around
Sky.
Memphis are the ruins
a few months of
many
Discovery
pyramids
Channel.
erected during the Old Kingdom period.
We're still learning. That's Memphis. Memphis is quite flooded now. It's quite hard to. It's in the
Each
delta,
successive
which is the
pharaoh or
north,
king
which
was
is
considered a
ironically
living god.
Lower Egypt.
People
Lower Egypt's
worked
in the north.
hard for the pharaoh,
Upper
erecting
Egypt's in the south.
pyramids to enjoy his
Just because of the
blessing.
way the river runs. Yeah.
The civilization of the Old Kingdom lasted 500 years, going into a slow decline toward the end.
Because they
The
built so many
pharaohs
pyramids.
weakened at the last, coming to be considered not gods, but only the sons of gods.
You get a bit of a problem
And as the pharaohs
when
lost
pharaohs
power, the
reign
priests
too long,
began to
which
gain
is what
it.
starts happening towards the end of the Old Kingdom.
This had a major effect
see
on
that-
pyramid construction, since pyramids were the tombs of the pharaohs.
There was kind of a mix. It looked like the perfect storm of them using too many resources and too
As
much manpower
pharaonic power
putting pyramids
declined,
up.
pyramids became smaller,
and
the ancient
deeply
Egyptians began
entrenched
to
political
concentrate
power.
more on building sanctuaries and temples.
And that seemed to kind of
In time,
contribute to
pyramid
this decline of
construction came to an end.
civilization. Okay, so there's some ruined pyramids there. It's an interesting thing with
Rulers
pyramids.
of ancient Egypt were finally driven from power by invading tribes, and the kingdom went through a long period of chaos.
What they call the first intermediate period. Why'd they jump into the New Kingdom? That's way later.
Let's just fast forward a little bit.
I fast forwarded an awful lot there. That's like
Then,
It's like-
in 1567 BC, the new kingdom
1,000 years. Why are they
it.
jumping forward 1,000
was a fresh
years?
start, and the magnificent glory of New Kingdom civilization
Stuff
lasted
happened,
for
doesn't
about
matter.
500 years.
That is mind-boggling.
Did you hit fast forward or something?
Nope. Nope.
By this time, the great age of pyramid construction had passed,
That's a much
and
smaller
those that were
pyramid.
left were reminders of the ancient past for people.
When it comes to
even then.
pyramids, size matters.
The capital of the New Kingdom was Luxor, approximately 700 kilometers south of Cairo. The remains of this period are magnificent. The new kingdom thrived, expanding to encompass more territory than any other kingdom of ancient Egypt. It stretched from the Sinai Peninsula in the north to the Nubian region in the south.
I love how they're just like throwing loads of concepts out there and names out there without actually explaining any of them. It's like, what's a Nubian?
Celebrating Amen, the sun god. The sanctuary was affiliated with the great temple of Amen at Karnak.
It's almost like...
This is the great temple of Amen. When the age of pyramids
It's almost
ended,
like there's just a grab bag
began to build
of
temples
Egyptian
for the worship
things,
of
and they
Amen,
just go,
where they
what should we
prayed
do
for
next?
their own power
I
and
don't know,
prosperity.
let's do Karnak.
This continued until the
Like if you're on a
Ptolemaic
plane and
period,
you're
when
watching the
ancient
infract
Egypt
system,
came to an
Yeah.
end.
and they're like, here's some information for you.
Successive
Yeah.
pharaoh enlarged existing
Yeah, it's like being on
sanctuaries and
a
temples
really
and
schizophrenic
built
tour
new
bus,
ones.
where they're just
They were
like,
the
we're going to
focus
start at
of
the beginning,
belief
but then
in
we're going to
Amen
start
for approximately
towards the end.
2,000 years. Built on a desolate rocky plateau in the desert east of the Nile near
Why are they
Luxor,
jumping around
was a
so
vast
much?
tomb city of the dead.
This
The
makes
Greeks
no
later called it
sense.
the necropolis of Thebes.
Like, they haven't covered
The Valley of Kings,
why
nestled
pyramids
in a range of
developed. They haven't
mountains,
covered the
is
fact
site
that...
of
Alright,
many royal tombs. The most
So-
famous is the pharaoh Tutankhamen.
the reason that they started burying people in the
died
Valley
at
of the
the young
Kings was
age of
because the
18,
pyramids
was
was such a
mummified,
big
and
target
placed in
for
a
robbers.
coffin richly wrought
Right,
in
so
solid
you get...
gold. He
It starts
rests in this
out in
tomb even
pre-dynastic
today.
Egypt, and in pre-dynastic Egypt, you've
This
got the
valley
first
of royal
unification of
tombs
the
at
state,
Thebes
right?
contains
And
tombs of
that's when you have the
successive
first, like,
erected over a period of
concentration of
approximately
wealth and
400
power
years,
and manpower,
beginning in
right? And that's what it takes to
1600
build a large structure.
So
So we
far,
have people
only
building
about
what we
60
call
royal
mastabas. They're
tombs
called
have been
mastabas. It's an
discovered in the
Arabic word for
valley.
bench, but basically
It's
they look
highly
like these
probable
big
that
stone
there are
benches in the
others,
desert.
like
And a mastaba
Tutankhamun's, that have
is the
remained
original tomb.
unplundered.
Okay, and they're usually long rectangle things. They were
This
pretty
valley
big,
held not
pretty
only
big. Like
royal
probably
tombs and funerary temples,
it's really
but
hard to say
also
now. Most of them
hundreds
are
and
buried.
perhaps even thousands of tombs
Nowhere
of
near as big as
aristocrats.
pyramids, obviously. Like the biggest pyramids are 400 feet or something crazy like that. But
The brilliant glory
we're talking
of the
like
New
at least, you know,
Kingdom
70 feet
period
high.
began to fade
Big
around
stone
1200
or
BC
mud brick
when the
mastabas.
Mediterranean world was on the rise.
So they started doing that, and then they realised, oh, if we build these things, then people try to like tunnel into them. So, and now we're in the Ptolemaic period. So the Ptolemaic period comes right at the very end.
Then came the reign of Cleopatra.
That's fine.
I don't think it makes any difference anyway.
Yeah.
So-
After
Still
the
playing.
New Kingdom period, ancient Egypt was repeatedly invaded by other empires.
So they've
and
skipped
suffered
ahead to the
several
Ptolemaic
periods
period,
of
which was set
foreign
up by
occupation, during
Alexander
which
the
Egyptians
Great's
were not allowed to
General
succeed to
Ptolemy.
the throne.
It was essentially a period of Greek rule, or
The last
Hellenistic
dynasty
rule,
of ancient
Ptolemaic
Egypt
rule.
was founded around
And
304 BC.
They
by
set themselves up in
Ptolemy the
Alexandria,
First,
and it was
one
largely
of
a Greek
Alexander
city.
the Great's generals.
The Egyptians
Oh,
themselves.
Ptolemy.
Built the city
There you
of
go.
Alexandria
It's explaining
for
something
its
now.
capital.
They're actually explaining
Named
Ptolemy a
in
little.
honor of Alexander,
Yep.
it was renowned for its art and culture throughout the Mediterranean
This is
world.
all true, and it was a good town because it was a port town, so it was a really good strategic position. And trade-wise, it killed it absolutely.
The last queen
Unfortunately,
of
they
ancient
concentrated a
Egypt
lot of their wealth
was a
and
Greek
political power in one
descended from
place,
the
and the
Ptolemies.
native Egyptians were treated as like second-class citizens. I don't know why we're here though. Like, why are we in
When
Ptolemaic Egypt?
Cleopatra
They
died
mention a
in 50
pyramid.
BC,
Let me just
ancient
hang on.
Egypt
Let me just
fell under the
reiterate.
control of the Roman
It's called
Empire.
the Great Pyramid,
3,000
the
years
Great
journey
Pyramid,
had come to an end.
and we're talking about Alexandria. They haven't
When
even
we think
explained.
about ancient Egypt, it's the massive pyramids and
Okay.
images of Tutankhamun
Maybe they were
and
setting
Cleopatra
groundwork.
that come to mind.
In such a bizarre way.
But there's so much more.
There is.
Yes,
To
there
understand
is.
The history of ancient Egypt.
Yeah, start at
It's
the beginning,
crucial to
please.
comprehend what the people of those days thought, how they led their
Okay,
lives,
so a
and
mastaba,
what their
if you look at the
ideals
step
were.
pyramid, it goes like
Understanding ancient Egypt
it
will
looks
bring
like
it to life
pixelated,
for
yeah?
you,
Yeah.
even today.
Okay. So the reason for that was some genius called Imhotep, better known as the villain from the Mummy movies, but he wasn't. He was, he was an architect. He was a physician. He was all kinds of things. Deified in the end. Mastabas. I've got to finish this point. I've got to finish this point because they haven't spoken about it. So a mastaba, right? Bench, big tomb, and people were looking at it going, well, look, it might be easy to dig into that, yeah, because it's mud brick. even though it was covered in, lime wash and stuff like that. So Imhotep, the genius, comes up with this idea. He goes, like, why don't we put a mastaba on top of the mastaba, right? Double trouble. And then somewhere along the lines, he goes, actually, why don't we put 2 mastabas on top of the 2 mastabas? And then suddenly you start seeing this pyramid shape. Bone of contention is that, where did pyramids come from? Because there's like nothing, and then suddenly amazing pyramids. How did people do it? And I'm like, first of all, there wasn't nothing. There was a long, gradual evolution of pyramid building, and we have the evidence. It's there in Egypt. You can see the original mastaba. You can see the step pyramid, and then you can see them starting to build. It was Sneferu, King Sneferu.
So not aliens.
Not aliens. The thing is, like, it's to me, it does a discredit to the Egyptians and to humanity, and to, because the wonderful thing about humans is that if you get enough of us devoted to a common cause, we can accomplish incredible things.
Yeah.
And if I were to look as a layman at, say, the Golden Gate Bridge, having no context for our civilization, I'd be like, well, gods must have put that there or something. You know what I mean? Like, and it's that context that's missing. But when you see the context, when you realise that there were
and
broken pyramids, there was the bent pyramid. There was the red pyramid, which is the first pyramid that really worked, built by Sneferu. And Sneferu was so just single-minded, and he had such a huge amount of, human power at his disposal, that he ended up having like 3 or 4 pyramids built. And it's pretty incredible to see the just the willpower and the single-mindedness of these people going, okay, we didn't get this enormous, exhausting, incredible thing right this time, so we're going to go over here where in the first instance where the ground is more stable. So that was the first thing that did it. And then they realised, we're building this at the wrong angle. This is going to collapse on itself. We have to change the angle dramatically. So you've got one pyramid that goes like that. Yeah. It looks like the top of an obelisk. And it's not until that had been refined and perfected that you see the Great Pyramid, that you see the Giza Plateau. So that if anyone's going to take anything away from watching the Great Pyramid, it's that this was an evolution. It didn't spring up from nowhere, and it's an awful lot of very hard work. And there are things that we still don't understand about how they got so many blocks there. Sure. But they were quarried locally. We do know where the blocks came from. They didn't bring them from another country or anything like that. They were in Egypt. And there are records from local quarries as well from the period of them rebuilding the casing and things like that. So I wish some of that had been in there.
Well, it's actually Megadrive producing the graphics.
Megadrive
So it's
graphics.
Megadrive. Literally Megadrive.
Literally Megadrive. Well, that's quite cool. You've got an interactive map here. You can go around Alexandria, Rosetta, Tanis, Cairo, go down to Giza, Saqqara, which is the original pyramid site. Dashur, Medium, that's more original pyramid sites. Tel El Amarna is where
scroll there.
The heretic king. You can go. Okay, so you can go down the Nile and pick from different locations, and it's got little subsection menus that are very basic graphics. Can we select anything on the map?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You're loading something here.
We can select the map. That would have been pretty novel in 1993. To be fair.
The capital of the Old Kingdom was here in Memphis, near Saqqara, where the Step Pyramid is located. Mm-hmm. In the area around Memphis are the ruins of many pyramids erected during the Old Kingdom period.
So it's quite cool that you can interact with the map actually and get something out. Oh, that's it.
It's a tiny little snippet.
Just as I'm about to find something redeemable in this thing, it's like, that you get 15 seconds.
Alright, let's try Giza.
Ancient Egypt went through repeated cycles of growth, prosperity, and decline. The first peak of Egyptian civilization was when many of the pyramids were built, including the enormous ones at Giza.
Enormous ones, that's a technical term. That's it!
Again, that's it.
I despair.
Choose another place. We'll try somewhere else.
Little scarab beetle rolling in the sun.
Ramses' capital was Tanis, at the northern tip of Egypt. His ancestors had lived there, and so he rebuilt the capital in his hometown. The reign of his
A lot of Egypt
successor,
was about
Ramses III,
signalling
was marked
back to
by
the past and
economic
connecting
disorder,
yourself to
repeated
previous
invasions.
pharaohs who were said to be,
He failed to
historically
overcome
great.
the country's internal problems, and the ancient Egyptian state fell into a long decline.
Long decline. A bit like this game then. That's it. That's it. Once again.
Might be a short decline.
It's a very short decline. Luxor?
So,
Luxor opens up some more areas, so you can choose from Valley of the Kings, the temple. Loading. There we go. Karnak.
Then, in 1567 BC, the New Kingdom period began. It was a fresh start, and the magnificent glory of New Kingdom civilization
yeah, I feel like it's just
lasted
dumped
for about 500
Back into the video.
the main video, yeah.
Yeah, we've literally seen this. Man, they
By this
phoned it
time,
in.
the great age
It's
of
the same
pyramid
tiny
construction
pyramid.
had passed, and those that were left
Okay, move on.
Alright, so you've got chronology table of ancient Egypt. It jumps forward in 1,000 year segments, which are only really separated by big chunks of colour.
I'm assuming the card chunks maybe a snippet
Different
of video.
snippets,
Yeah.
yeah. There's not many.
No.
There's 3 for the period, the first millennium between 3000 and 2000 BC. And 3, apparently, for the next section up to 1000 BC. And 2, because apparently only 2 things happened between 1000 BC and the, birth of Christ.
Yeah.
So, so only 2 things happened then. It feels like someone's chopped up a Discovery Channel special that makes up less than the sum of its parts.
The most famous pharaoh is Tutankhamun.
Tutankhamun
So I know this
now.
guy.
He was a pharaoh of the 18th dynasty, enthroned in about 1360 BC. He died young, accomplishing almost nothing in his short reign.
Did you know that?
He was little known in ancient
Didn't
Egypt.
know that exactly. No, I just heard of him.
So you learned something,
He
didn't you,
succeeded
Luke?
the
You
throne
learned
at
something
the
from
age
this
of
one.
9. Because of his youth, he was probably powerless and under the political
So
influence of
I
the
can tell you something a little bit weird.
Yeah.
So you're aware of the
living image of Aten
the
was
Mandela
changed
effect.
to
Yes.
Tutankhamen,
So
living image of
if you
Aten.
ask people about Tutankhamun's headdress
Images on the back of his
and what
throne
animal
describe
is
his
on
life
the
with
headdress,
Queen Ankhesenaten.
people would generally say
Under the light of the god Aten,
a snake.
the queen is anointing the
But if
seated
you
king
just saw there,
with
there's
oil.
actually 2 animals
Yep.
This
on
isn't
the
an
headdress.
image
Yep.
of marriage
And the majority of
arranged for
people
succession to the throne.
believe it's just one.
Rather, it communicates the love.
So they believe. Let me get this straight, because the Mandela effect is where you believe that you remember an alternate
Yeah.
dimension, essentially, and that you must have jumped dimension
Yeah.
rather than the possibility or probability that your memory is false.
Yeah, but if you if you go onto something like Amazon and try to purchase a headdress,
Yeah.
you'll have just the snake.
Just the cobra,
Yeah.
because that's all anyone ever remembers.
Exactly.
Because people don't remember the vulture goddess. The cobra and the vulture were like the twin goddesses of
Yeah.
protection for Egypt.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Weird, not weird.
That is no, that's interesting, because I didn't know that. I didn't know there was an ancient Egyptian component of the Mandela effect. It's good to know. There's a Star Wars one. I know that much.
Yeah. Well, that's another video. We can talk about.
I think that's another. That's, yeah, totally.
Regarding his impression of Tutankhamun's tomb when he entered it, Howard Carter said, "Though people last walked this floor 33 centuries ago, I strongly felt the presence of someone inside the tomb. I carefully removed the seals and wood screws from the door and opened it."
I added echo effect.
I love that. Very dramatic. Oh, and then they cut off
again
just before the story starts getting really interesting. So like you have like the Oh no, hang on, we've got some more Tutankhamun here.
Tutankhamun died when he was only
His
18.
treasures.
Until recently, it wasn't known whether he died of assassination, disease, or an accident. But in 1969, X-rays of the mummy showed a concavity in the skull that was probably caused by a blow.
Okay, so this is interesting. I don't think they're going to go into detail here. In fact, they're almost certainly not going to go into detail because we jumped to a temple in a different area.
At Abitosu, this list gives the names of the
List for the
successive
kings.
pharaohs.
Okay, so we're on the king list now. That's no good. The research that is on this disc doesn't, of course, have any of the more modern forensic stuff
Oh yeah, sure.
in it. So there was a bunch of forensic work done on that, and one of the things that was discovered was that the blow to the back of the head was more than likely post-mortem, not likely the cause of his death. So it seems like the mummy was damaged, which isn't unusual at all.
Because the people carrying it just dropped it.
Well, that can happen. That can absolutely happen, and you know, you would get like Bob Breyer, I think it is. He's an Egyptologist, old school Egyptologist. He did some experiments making a modern mummy, and one of the things they worked out was that when you put a hook up someone's nose to pull the brains out, it doesn't work at all.
Oh,
You can't pull out a brain. It's too mushy.
sure.
So what that whisk was probably for was to whisk it all into a liquid so that it could be poured out of the head. And then what they would do is they would pour resin into it. And what that would do, of course, is pool in the back of the head. So you'd suddenly have this mummy with a lot of weight in the skull, because that's a hollow cavity that was now full of resin. So the damage to the back of the head could have happened in any variety of ways. Some things of note, Tutankhamun wasn't an original burial. The fact that most of the stuff was still there was a happy accident, and it had actually been robbed. That chamber hadn't been. But it seems like Tutankhamun's original tomb was stolen or taken, and that was another tomb, possibly one of his parents or grandparents or relatives' tombs that he was put into. And it's really interesting because there are lots of different theories about why he could have been killed, because there's a lot of circumstantial evidence surrounding his death that implies that the priest who was also kind of in charge, like the Prime Minister, had lots of motive to get him off the scene once he turned of age, and actually married his widow to gain power, and then his widow disappears.
That does sound like a strong motive.
There's a lot of motive there. There's a lot of motive. Who benefits, you know? And so, like, you can do this. It's a fascinating kind of ancient detective story. But as the forensics, getting back to the point, I guess, as the forensics get better, as the science gets better, we learn that, it probably wasn't a blow to the back of the head, but actually also he had a broken limb. Could he have had an infection from that limb, or could it have been something else? And it's like there's this constant cycle of interrogation of ancient celebrity to try and figure out, how and why these people died. And actually, it's one of the more compelling things, because the most important stuff in here is really the human stories behind it, whether they be beggar or prince, And it's a really compelling story because it's actually one of the early kind of love stories that we have, where his widow does something completely unheard of and writes to the Egyptians' enemies, the Hittites, to say, I am afraid I don't want to marry this commoner, presumably like talking about his priest, his prime minister. Please send a prince for me to marry. And the Hittites eventually, after checking this story out, send a prince with his guard, and they are wiped out, they're assassinated, which means that someone knew to intercept them with a force large enough, because we're not talking about small forces, we're talking about thousands of people potentially as a royal guard going into a hostile territory, and they would have had to be prepared and know that they were coming, to just decimate them like that. And we have all of these records from the Hittite side. This isn't just like because the Egyptians tried to wipe this out. One of the key things to remember about them is they didn't write down anything negative.
Sure.
So all of their historical accounts are positive. So everything bad that happened, we have to figure out from the context of...
As I say, the history is written by the winners.
By the victors, exactly that, And luckily we have more accurate, or what we'd call more accurate, objective accounts of history from the surrounding regions in the Middle East. from that period. Otherwise, we'd know a lot less, and we have things like the Amarna letters and things where they correspond with other kings. So that's where we get insights into them. Yeah.
So yeah, obviously in 1993, they hadn't got to this yet.
They didn't have the forensic science to know that was the case. So yeah, so there's definitely going to be some dated information here, particularly about royal people.
Amazing.
The name of Tutankhamun is not there. He died almost unnoticed and unmourned, and his name soon faded from the histories of the long era.
Yeah, he was
In
wiped out
all
of history.
the Valley of the Kings, his tomb was the smallest.
Most likely because it wasn't his.
It looks like on the menu in the back we have what we watched: the opening Old Kingdom, New Kingdom, and am I pronouncing that?
Ptolemaic period.
Ptolemaic.
Ptolemaic. Perfect.
Period. So that's the main gist of what we've just watched.
Yep.
And they have a few other little sections on things. And this is the interactive linkage.
That's the interactive bit.
But I feel like it is a glorified DVD menu. Should you get this? Do you think if you're into either video games or Egyptology?
I think what it is it's a really nice time capsule. It's a lovely thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love the design of it. I love how it looks. I love the size of it. The fact that it looks like a record about the Great Pyramid. Would I buy it? Well, no, because you need the setup to play it and all of that stuff. But it's a lovely thing, honestly. I love how it looks, and I mean, this is just nuts. The fact that you've got basically an internet menu or a DVD menu on a laser disc.
Yeah,
it's crazy premium. Can you imagine if you'd bought this at the time?
Yeah, I think I would be upset actually.
You reckon?
I feel like if I went through all the effort of sourcing this and putting it together, and then watched what was it, a 10 to 15 minute video, and then was like, oh, I feel like they've missed chunks out. They jumped around a bit.
Just a little bit.
Went from
They did 2500 BC
2500
to 1500 BC, missing out this. And they didn't even talk about the development of the pyramid for something called the Great Pyramid.
It's also true.
There was like, and I'm sure, I know it's there's pyramid in the menu there, and you can select down and probably get a bit more detail about each pyramid. But the value of this kind of tool is that it gives you context.
Yeah.
And this doesn't feel like it gives you any context. You could just go in there and go, oh, I want to know about mystery, or I want to read about this pharaoh or something. And it's like it's not giving you actual knowledge. It's just tidbits. It's factoids.
I've just seen on here actually there's a price.
Oh.
So this is in yen.
Right.
Which basically says it's 10,094 yen, which I would say is roughly $100.
$100.
Yeah.
Back in '93.
Wow. So it wasn't cheap.
That's serious.
And that's old money as well. So
yeah, it's a chunk of change. I remember in 1993, I bought my first Discman for I think about 90 quid on Tottenham Court Road. So you could buy an entire portable compact disc player for the price roughly of one
just
of these.
this one,
just this disc.
Wow. This game, as it were. I feel like, I don't know. It's hard to think back then if you would have been happy with his purchase.
Who does buy this? Who is this aimed at?
Who knows?
Rich Egyptologists? Because I don't know many of those.
This isn't traditionally a game. This is, I don't know, might even be a walking simulator.
Yeah,
as it were. Yeah,
it's kind of a tour bus simulator. Yeah. It's kind of a watching the Discovery Channel with a remote control simulator. It's a DVD simulator.
Yeah.
This is what the future promises, but not quite. This is like a preview of what the future might have for you. So if anything, this makes me just appreciate the internet more.
Thanks for watching our viewing and reaction. Thank you to Paul for coming along.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Reacting to that. I'm sure he feels like his years of study went to good use there.
Oh, absolutely. I feel enlightened.
All right. Well, thanks for coming along, and you stay awesome.
遊びテック。